Welcome to this episode of Game and Earn. In today's video, we're going to not look at any specific console. That video is going to come out in a few more days, but instead we'll take a look at some interesting things going on in the video game market. Specifically, I'm going to cover how to capitalize on gaming news, limited run titles, and special/collector editions. Alright, enough of the boring stuff. Let's get on with the video and find some ways to game and earn. Every December, we get to see all the new video game trailers and news for the upcoming year on the Game Awards. As a gamer myself, it's so much fun to watch and get excited for the titles that I really want to play. But, as a reseller, this is a really good opportunity to capitalize on the news, and can dictate where prices are going to go for some titles. Most titles announced every year are from a series that already exist. Very rarely do we get brand new IPs with much fanfare, unless, of course, you're Todd Howard. So, when titles or sequels in a series get announced, we can normally profit off of that. As an example, this year, one of the biggest announcements came from the Elden Ring development team at From Software, showing off a trailer for a new Armored Core title. When titles are announced from a series with a long history like Armored Core, people flock to eBay to purchase older copies. As an example, from December 1st to the 7th, 7 copies of Armored Core 3 sold on eBay. Then, on December 8th alone, the day of the Game Awards, there were 14 sales of Armored Core 3. This isn't some rare occurrence either, it happens all the time after games are announced. Usually the older titles will spike right when a new game is announced, then settle down to around the same price, then spike again a month before release. We've seen this with titles such as Kirby earlier in 2022, with the older Kirby titles increasing nearly 25% a month before the latest entry on the Switch was released. As a reseller, how is this an actionable item then? Well, first off, if you have any copies of the series, I'd be looking to sell right when the announcement occurs. Then, after the initial sell off and hype dies down over the next couple of months, copies are going to simmer in price. That makes a great opportunity to buy before they surge again. Then, when it inevitably surges a month before release, another time to sell. One of the ways that the industry has changed over the last decade is indie titles in general. With the arcade style games being launched during the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era, indie titles became more mainstream. Since people could purchase these games for much cheaper than the cost of a normal game, players flocked to them and found that many titles were actually amazing. With that surge in popularity, companies such as Limited Run Games popped up, turning indie titles from online only to physical copies. This was a huge success, and copies of these titles would sell out extremely fast to fans and resellers alike. However, when the Nintendo Switch released is when things really heated up, with more companies popping up than ever before. Limited Run Games is still the king of the space, though. But now there are other companies such as Super Rare Games, I Am 8-Bit, and a few others in the space. Most of the heavy hitter games you'll find, though, are from limited run games, as they even have a deal with Best Buy for their releases. With all of that being said, we're looking for ways to earn profit. So, what approach should you take for these? Well, let's take a look at Celeste as an example. There were 2 variants of this title, one from limited run games sold online, and another box art variant sold exclusively at Best Buy. The Best Buy copy would run you roughly $30 at retail, where the other variants online would cost a little more at $35. Both copies now sell in the $150 range for nearly a 5 times gain. But we can't go in the past and purchase this, so how can we identify the next Celeste? First, you need to understand why Celeste is so sought after and expensive. It's an absolutely amazing title, with a 92 Metacritic score and an ever elusive 10 out of 10 from IGN. Not every game needs to be that good to be that sought after, but in general, the title needs to be something fans love and enjoy. Look at Indie Game Awards or the indie category in any other game award show. Not every game is going to be Celeste, but there are indicators showing which titles will be sought after. Start looking at upcoming releases for limited run games or the variants on Best Buy. Even now you can find some great titles for less than $30 a piece. Titles such as Castlevania Collection or the Bloodstained series are great speculation purchases, and I can see those having some success down the road for resellers. Or a title like Tunic, which hasn't released physically yet, but is getting rave reviews and should eventually get a physical release. Indie titles are such an underutilized market for reselling, so with some good research and some good fortune, that's a great way to earn some cash. Lastly, I want to cover something that the most hardcore fans know about all too well, the ever-rising prices of collector editions. The Nintendo Switch has become one of the most notable consoles with a large physical library, including a very wide range of collector editions. Indie darlings such as Shantae and Celeste, or even mainstream titles like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Fire Emblem Three Houses, all seem to release with collector editions nowadays. This is a wonderful thing for collectors. I personally hunt these for titles I love, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. However, the cost of buying these has become somewhat prohibitive, often doubling in price even a month after release. Take a look at Fire Emblem Three Houses Seasons of Warfare Edition. At launch, this was an $80 retail purchase, and as of this video's release, it's currently averaging new in box price of $250. But, on the other hand, there are titles that release collector's editions that lose value or stay roughly the same as their retail price. So, how can we identify those that are going to increase in value or those that won't? Here are some things I do to see if I should go after the collector editions from a resale standpoint. First, is this title from a popular series? Games like Zelda, Mario, Pokemon, or Metroid are always going to be sought after, even the bad ones. Secondly, is this title a mainline series or a spin-off title? Even series like Pokemon suffers from this, where titles like Pokemon Ranger isn't as sought after as much as Pokemon Diamond or Pearl, even though both of which came out in roughly the same time period. Thirdly, are there multiple levels of collector's editions? Usually when there is a base game, special edition, and collector edition, you should not purchase the mid-tier. Always go for the biggest one. Finally, how big is the game's community? If you're unsure of how popular an indie game is, for example, take a look at social media to see how much presence that title has online. Look for Discord servers, subreddits, etc. to determine if there is a big enough following to profit from. After I've answered all these questions, I'm able to properly see if a title is worth purchasing. Let's take a game like Fire Emblem Engage, for example, the next mainline game in the series. We know from previous collector editions that the value has gone up since release, and there's only a base title with collector edition. The subreddit has almost 300,000 subscribers, and the Discord server has nearly 10,000 members. That's a pretty healthy community size. I'd say the Fire Emblem Engage Collector Edition is a great choice to purchase in hopes of going up in value. A final thing you can check is how much a game is pre-selling for on eBay. I personally don't engage in this, and I think it's mostly frowned upon in the community, but sometimes these items are hard to come by, so we gotta do what we gotta do. Take a cursory glance at eBay, and you can see that this is selling for anywhere around the $150 mark, and has a retail price of roughly $100. So, with an already 50% increase in cost, this is likely going to be a good game to go after for resale. With all of that being said, collector editions usually take time to gain value, so don't purchase to flip in the same month. You could be waiting 6 months or a year to realize any gains at all. But if you pick the right titles and are able to beat the bots to purchase, I think there is a good amount of money to be made here. There's one last thing I'd like to mention before ending the video. This is something that I think will help a lot of resellers. Oftentimes, when collector edition games are listed, we have minutes to try and acquire the game. That doesn't give much time to think about if this is the best price or is this even the right edition of the game that I want. Due to that, don't ever be afraid to cancel a pre-order for a collector edition title. There are many titles I've purchased that I wish I had canceled on. If you have a pre-order for a collector edition title and it hasn't sold out in a week, odds are that the production count is extremely high and the market will soon be flooded with people trying to recoup their cost. And finally, on the flip side of that coin, don't stop checking if an item comes back in stock. It happens and people cancel orders or new stock come in, and the item becomes available randomly. Keep a tab open on the product page and refresh it every now and then. You never know when it's going to pop up again. Alright, well, that about wraps up this video at Game & Earn, and I hope you learned some new ways to take advantage as a reseller with this information. As I said before, our regularly scheduled videos will come out soon, so keep an eye out for those. We hope you enjoyed this content, and if you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.